Sunday, July 17th. It's around 10 a.m. or I should say 10:17 a.m. It's getting really nice and sunny here in Southern California. We're gonna get a couple of warm days, so we got the pool filling. And welcome to another garden update. My name is Brian and I grow it here in Southern California near downtown Los Angeles. Just want to show you a couple of citrus trees that we have over here. This is Eureka lemon, and on here we grafted a Bahubza blood orange on there. So you got some round citrus over there. Those are the blood oranges, and then this is the Eureka lemon. And then on this tree here we have the Bahubza blood orange grafted on just one tree, and here's some fruit here. I want to start this video off with some citrus updates because right now we're in summertime and the Valencia oranges are in season. So if you find Valencia oranges at the market, they are a great source of vitamin C, and with all that's going on, get in as much vitamin C as possible. This is the first official harvest of Valencia oranges for us. We grow we're near downtown Los Angeles. The climate is cooler than inland, and so citruses like the sweet oranges like the Valencia take longer to grow. And this is our tree. The other thing is this soil is predominantly clay, so it took a while for the soil to build to the level where it's sufficient for the tree to produce fruit. So as we look at the trunk, it's got a pretty good girth, so that means it's pretty mature. And once again, it just took a while for the roots to establish and for it to draw up all the nutrients that it needs. Very excited about our first set of fruit. And juicing oranges are a great citrus to grow in Southern California because in the summertime, it's a really refreshing juice to have. Down here, since we're here, we have some Scotch bonnet peppers that are coming in. And then we have basil. One thing I want to note is that basil can grow more quickly than we can eat them. And there's a couple of ways of pruning them. So the method that's often shown is the surgical method, where you pinch it back to a certain spot, and that's one way to go about it. But when we have so much, we found a faster way. It's more brute force. Basically, you want to grab the plant to where you want to thin it back, and this plant, if you can imagine, was much taller, up to here. And so with your offhand, you grab it like this, and then with your dominant hand, just tear and pinch off, actually not pinch, but tear off everything above your offhand. So you just basically pull that. That's a fast way to go about it. It ends up with a plant that doesn't look as clean as if you went in and surgically did it. But if you have a lot of plants, this is a quick way to go about it. Don't mind all the brown stuff you see here. My wife got some coffee grounds from the coffee shop recently, so I just threw them down here. And once again, like this plant here, if I had two hands free, I can show you that, but you can just grab this and just break everything off on top. But here we can do some surgical pinching as an illustration. Basically, you want to pinch it back so that it doesn't start to make seeds, and once it makes seeds, you're going to get less of the leaves that you're after, and then the leaves might be a little bit more bitter in flavor and spicier in flavor, less fragrant, less sweet in flavor. So that's the basil. The other big update is that our tomato plants, we're now planting for fall, and this is a plant that Burpee sent over. This is the Dark Star tomato, and we have one that's here. And in Southern California, when temperatures get above 80, that's when the tomato plants are less happy. And so with this one, anticipating the warm weather, we planted it where it's a little bit cooler and it doesn't get as much direct sunlight, because even the off sunlight, I feel, is plenty, and it's starting to curl some of the leaves as a result. This week we got weather in the 80s, so that's when the blossoms are more likely to set fruit. Above that, they don't set fruit. It's just a natural thing for them because it's too hot for the plant to grow the fruit. So then they don't bother setting it, and as a result, they wait for ideal temperatures. The other plant that we have in this place now is the oxheart tomato, and this year we're having a hard time with the oxheart tomato. Maybe because I'm not devoting the energy that I normally do to growing them, because we were growing a bunch of other varieties and we had a really good harvest, like the Costoluto Genovese. So we have these are our late summer plantings for tomatoes. The other thing you may notice that is that we had a Cherokee purple here, and then we had another Cherokee purple there, and those have been removed. We also had 2 Costoluto Genovese tomatoes there, and they've been removed. And I've discovered that when it comes to growing tomatoes in Southern California, it's best to grow for a early summer harvest, and then removing the plants, because they will start to decline and they'll attract pests and disease, and it's best to remove them once that productivity goes way down. And one way to tell is the leaves. So this is the exception here. This is the early girl, and it shows that it's still pretty much happy, and so we've kept the plant. These are older leaves, so this is a good illustration of what a tomato plant in decline looks like. So the leaves start to look curly, they look yellow, they may have some spider mites on them, and so if the newer leaves look like this, it usually means that the plant is in decline, so we remove it. So a couple of factors: the age of the plant, so what time in the year, around once it gets warm, that's a good indicator to remove the plants and then plant something else. So that's why we'll see fewer tomato plants, with the exception of this early girl. Let's move down here. We started planting the Oaxacan green dent corn for a fall harvest. So we have Oaxacan green dent corn there, and then we have a single row of them here. And the reason is because you can see with the sunlight difference, if we plant it too dense here, that second row is not going to get the sunlight that it needs, and it's not going to be productive. So we do a single row over here. Previously, we had some Roma tomatoes, an entire row, and those Roma tomatoes have since become mulch. The reason was because around summertime, when the fruit from trees and from your plantings come in, that's when the population of rodents match up. That's how nature designs things. When there's food, then the population will match it up, because nature does not want food to be wasted. And so we removed this row because it was starting to become a problem with regards to vermin. It was actually creating a nice area for them to hide as they come down from up there. And we removed it because we want to keep the area clear and to dissuade them from coming down. So one of the things that you'll notice, there's pretty much a good clearing here, and then between the retaining wall and the hedge over there, there's a big clearing too. It makes it not comfortable for them, and it also makes them vulnerable to predators that may come down as they come down and snatch them. And one thing I was really happy to see was an owl. There was a barn owl that was perched on the power line over there, and that was the first sighting since moving here. And we've been here for a good, I would say, at least 9-10 years. So that was really cool to see, and it makes me optimistic about one day putting a owl nest box up on that tree there. So I'm more motivated to do that now, knowing that there are owls that will come into this area. And so it's really important to keep this nice buffer. That way we can have tomatoes remain on the vine to ripen unabated. And that's for 2 reasons. We have a small kitchen, and this is our kitchen garden. So if we can keep our produce here as much as possible, that means there's less space that we have to worry about indoors, and then also the harvesting and storage can be a little bit extra effort. So when we have our kitchen garden running, we come out and see what produce is available, and then we cook the dish accordingly, and we'll get that way we harvest and use our produce. Let's see, a couple things. We have always succession potatoes growing. So these are the fingering potatoes, and they tend to do well during the summer. The other thing that we have growing are bitter melon, and I'm happy to see that they're good and happy. We missed having some bitter melon last year because we planted it here, and we also planted two of these cucumber plants, and these cucumber plants took over the entire area. And for me, it was hard to pull it because when there's a plant that's really productive, you don't want to take it out of the game. You just want to let it continue on. But unfortunately, it meant that we didn't have bitter melon for the year. So we planned and planted one cucumber plant. And so you can see the two plants battling for sunlight and resources. Let's see if there's a cucumber here. We already harvested one the other day. There's that cucumber. It's starting to show. And it's the Japanese type, and I think in Japanese it's literal translation is 3 foot. So I'm trying to remember the name. I always forget because it's two names. The second part is it's Yamato Sanjaku. This is a variety, and I had a viewer comment from last year's video that they're good to harvest when the girth is around the diameter of a quarter. And that's true. With the great thing about growing your own cucumbers is you can control for the harvest. They are nice and crunchy at that size, but if you let them grow a little bit bigger, you can get a different texture, a softer texture. That's when the seed starts to form, and then it has that membrane around the seeds, so you get a different texture. It is a very highly productive variety, and ironically this year we want to get a lot so that we can make relish. And I endeavor to make more of the things from our kitchen garden rather than to purchase things. And so relish is something that I purchase regularly, and I would love to make our own relish. While we're here, we got some hulless pumpkin. That's the Kakai, K-A-K-I pumpkin. So we have one growing there, and then we have a second one growing down there, although I just noticed today that the rabbits have chewed at the bottom of the pumpkin. I don't think that's going to be an issue. It's more of a superficial damage. We're after the hullous seeds that are inside. They're great for making pozole with. That way you get seeds without having to hull them. And we have a second one over there that's at the tip of my finger, but you're not going to be able to see that. Let's see what else is over here. We got bell peppers. So this is the orange bell pepper. And one year we grew a really big, nice bell pepper. This plant is in recovery mode right now because a skunk had dug at it. So we have smaller bell peppers. Nonetheless, when you add the two, you're gonna get a good amount. And these are pretty thick walled bell peppers. And then other things in this pepper bed are plants that Burpee sent us over the years. This one was in 2020, I believe. This is the Cayenne pepper, and we make a teochew condiment with this. It's a chili condiment with shallots and dried shrimp and oil, and it makes a really good condiment. I'll show you the shallots in a second. I hope I don't forget to, because we just harvested some. We have some down here. This is our shallots that I haphazardly grew, and I'm gonna have to spend more effort in growing some nice ones. So this is some of the shallots, but I want to show you the other kind of shallots, so I hope I don't forget. This is a jalapeno pepper plant that Burpee sent, and they sent two plants, so I'm not sure if this is a spicy one or the non-spicy one. These were growing, and up until last year, one of the plants died, and so we have one. And I hope it's the non-spicy one because we have plenty of spicy jalapeno plants. This year they sent over the Aleppo paprika pepper, and so it was perfect because we're needing to restock our paprika powder this year. So we're gonna have some paprika peppers to do that with. They're starting to get some color, and this plant is very productive. And then over here we have more peppers. This is Amarillo, Ahi Amarillo, a Peruvian pepper. And then we have more of the jalapenos. This is the Texas A&M. And then over here, this is the this is an early jalapeno. And I want to remark that these two plants were transplanted here when they, not ideally transplanted here, meaning they should have been transplanted much earlier. They got a little bit root bound, but the nice thing about peppers is that they're long growing plants, so they can catch up. So that's why we have two small plants over here. And then we have more peppers over here. This is the Ahi Rokoto. It's also known as a manzano pepper, and it's become a rare pepper because the seeds are hard to find even, and I'm really grateful that Gardening Christie over on Instagram was able to share some seeds with us. So we have 2 plants, and they make these really cool purple blossoms, and when they do their flush, it looks like it just comes in waves. The plant looks really nice. It has this glowing purple, and you can see more of the buds forming here. And the peppers are starting to come in here too. So here's one. They're kind of like bell peppers. Like they're kind of like in terms of their shape and their thickness, they're kind of like bell peppers and a jalapeno pepper put together. So it's a little bit elongated. The other seeds that Gardening Christie sent over are these paprika peppers. This is the Alma. This is the first time growing for us. Let me come around and show you a bigger one on this side here. Where'd it go? Here it is. So this is Alma. I guess full potential is this size. And if you're noticing all this dead stuff, this is some of the brassicas that were growing in this bed as living mulch. I went and pulled it, and now we're just laying it on the ground as mulch. So here's some more Alma. And if you're curious, this is shishito pepper. And like the other jalapeno plants, these were transplanted way later than they should have, and they're catching up right now. And this one is in the back here where there's not as much direct sunlight, so it's a little bit puny. I may actually yank this plant so that we can plant something else. Back here, if you're visiting for the first time, this is our vertical planter that we created with fence boards. We set this up this year, and we have mostly herbs in here. And we have some herbs that were shared to us by Freckled Californian, and she has a YouTube page that she has some videos, but she's more active on Instagram. We got some Vietnamese coriander, and then she also shared with us the fish mint. Other mints that we have are the standard, I don't know, these are spearmint, I guess. We have some Moroccan mint. This is the type that's used in Moroccan tea. And before I back up, just a quick show of one of our wasabi plants. I think it needs a lot of fertilizer from all the trials that we've done and failures. I think we can just grow them in standard soil, but to make sure it's got a lot of nitrogen to feed it. So we're gonna have to feed this plant because it doesn't seem to make the amount of leaves that it should be. So quick remark on that. We have a second plant that looks better, and I have to remember to show you next time I go out to the other part of the garden. The other mint that we have is this mojito mint. This is the mint used in the Cuban cocktail called the mojito. So it's here. And up there we still have our hatch peppers that are growing. Those are the Anaheim peppers. And when they grow them in New Mexico in Hatch Valley, they're called hatch peppers. They're also called hatch peppers if they're grown in New Mexico. That one is actually New Mexico 64L. That's an Anaheim pepper that was developed by the University of New Mexico. So those are growing up there. And my phone is telling me that it's getting hot and the video quality may drop. So there's lots to share. I gotta start wrapping up. That is a winter melon that's growing up there. And let's see. All right, let's start closing up. The other thing I wanted to show you is this Black Beauty eggplant, and we've already eaten some. Made a quick eggplant parmigiana with some leftover Oaxacan cheese as a substitute for mozzarella. And then we made our own pasta sauce with the tomatoes that we harvested, the Costoluto Genovese tomatoes. And the other thing I want to show you, the last thing I want to show you, two things, I guess. This is our French gray shallots, and this is the shallots that we use in that Teochew chili oil condiment. And our goal is to grow them to the size of our thumb. So I don't know if that's possible if our climate's too warm, but we can at least get them to the size of my pinky. And so this looks to be an off year, so we'll see what we can use, and then we'll plant the rest. They have a very hard shell, so that makes them easy to store, makes them store well, but when you go and use them, it takes a lot of effort to cut through that. So that's why this shallot is not very popular. It's not a very practical one if you don't grow them to be a big size. And even at the big size, they're very hard to work with. But this is supposed to be the true type of shallots. So these are the French gray. And we have some Costoluto Genovese seedlings that we're planting for a fall harvest in California. It's warm enough that we can get a fall harvest. And then recently we picked up some new varieties, additional varieties of strawberries to grow. And we'll talk about strawberries in the future. But in short, we're finding that if we're in a climate that allows us to grow strawberries, they're worth it to grow your own because you can control for the quality. These days, the commercial strawberries, they're picked before they're ideal, so you're not going to get a true strawberry. They're kind of hard and bland and tart and not as sweet. So it's worth it to grow your own, because to get an old-fashioned strawberry for, I think, 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds, it's $15. And so we're going to be growing our own, or we've been trying to grow our own and finding varieties. So let me go over there real quick and show you our strawberry planter. And it's hot, so we're starting to fill up our pool. Those are our San Marzano tomatoes that are on the vine. And then over here, this is our strawberry planter, and we've been trying to find the old-fashioned strawberry that I grew up on. And so we got some varieties like the Honoe, the Albion, Sequoia, even the Mine Schindler. So in the interest of this video, I won't get into it, but in a future video, I'll get into the strawberries that we're planting. And ooh, look at this one. And why we're planting these varieties. But mostly these are trial varieties to find the one that will grow well here, and to find the one that will taste like the old-fashioned strawberries that I grew up eating. And I guess one last thing, these are the peppers that Burpee sent over, and they're starting to ripen. So these are all their peppers from heaven. So they have a yellow one, a red one, and then an orange one over there. And I'm actually very excited about these types of peppers because they look like they're the Italian type of peppers, and we do a lot of Italian cooking. And these are peppers that you can buy in a jar. They got this very nice, thick, but silky texture, and they're great for putting on pizzas. So very grateful for Burpee to send these over. It's like they read our minds and what we like eating, and so we have a lot of these great peppers to grow, all thanks to them. All right, that's gonna end it for us this time. Thanks for coming out as always and seeing how our garden is doing, and we'll see you in the next video, and hope everybody gets a good amount of vitamin C. Take care and be well.